All right, let's get right to that breaking news. Reports emerging from the USA that the Food and Drug Administration has ordered approximately 60 million Johnson & Johnson vaccine doses be discarded. This, of course, after concerns that the vaccines could have been contaminated at the manufacturing plant in Baltimore. Now, we know South Africa has about 2 million doses of J&J vaccines on hold at the Aspen factory in Gqeberha. We have been waiting for instruction from the FDA. Let's get the latest now from our Washington correspondent, Simon Marks. Simon, hi there. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're looking at a report from the New York Times. Has this been officially confirmed by the FDA yet?
No, it has not yet been officially confirmed by the FDA. There's no sign yet of any kind of statement on their website or any confirmation from the FDA. But this is a New York Times report citing people familiar with the decision and saying that the FDA has decided that those 60 million doses of Johnson & Johnson's one-shot COVID-19 jab manufactured at that very controversial plant in Baltimore need to be discarded because of possible contamination. Remember that the plant in Baltimore mixed up the ingredients between Johnson & Johnson and another vaccine that they were manufacturing at that plant just north of Washington, D.C. That then led to an investigation that found all sorts of irregularities with regard to sanitary procedures at the plant. Indeed, the plant remains closed, and according to the New York Times, the FDA has not yet decided if or when it's going to be allowed to reopen. The Food and Drug Administration, according to the newspaper, plans to allow 10 million doses to be distributed in the United States and sent on to other countries. But those doses are going to come with a warning that regulators cannot guarantee the company that operates the plant followed good manufacturing procedures. Now, we don't know what kind of advice has yet been conveyed to the South African authorities by the Food and Drug Administration, but it would be logical to presume that if that report from the New York Times is accurate, recipients of doses that were manufactured in that plant or ingredients that were created in that plant are effectively being told by the Food and Drug Administration, we're throwing all ours away, we're telling Johnson & Johnson to get rid of 60 million doses. You can use them, but you would be using them at your own risk because we can't guarantee that safe manufacturing practices were in place when those doses of the vaccine were created. So this is obviously absolutely not the news that we wanted to be bringing you from the FDA, and perhaps explains why, and you and I, Sally, have talked about this over the last 10 days or so, why it's taken so long for this decision to emerge. They've clearly been struggling with this decision at the Food and Drug Administration for quite a while.
So, Simon, I'm looking at that New York Times report, and as you say, this is from a very credible news organisation, so it's more than likely true, but we wait to hear exact word from the FDA. But there was 170 million doses of vaccine from that plant that was manufactured that was sort of in limbo, and that was both AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. So now it's just these 60 million Johnson & Johnson doses. So there's still 40 million Johnson & Johnson doses that might be in the clear. But of course, I suppose we simply don't know if we have got doses here in South Africa that have been cleared or not. So that's obviously going to be the big concern for us here in South Africa. But my question to you, Simon, is the FDA, it sounds to me like, is playing it safe, because surely if there was a real serious concern, they would say absolutely no way can we allow these vaccines out.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a huge problem here, not reputationally, if you like, for the Johnson & Johnson jab. Certainly those doses that were created at this Baltimore plant. I mean, I think we need a lot more specificity from the Food and Drug Administration about precisely what they're saying about the vaccines that are in South Africa that have been waiting to get used there. But the language that's being used here about, you know, the FDA not being being able to guarantee that secure manufacturing facilities were in place at the plant and that normal manufacturing practices were in place. That's got to raise questions about everything that's emanated from that particular plant, because no investigation has suggested, as far as I'm aware, that up until a certain point everything in that plant was absolutely 100% spick and span, and then something went very wrong. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the plant still remains closed, that there are ongoing concerns about manufacturing standards at that particular facility. And we should remind people that facility received hundreds of millions of dollars from the US government when Donald Trump was president, specifically to serve as one of America's standby manufacturing facilities in the event of any kind of public health crisis that required a vaccine suddenly to be cooked up and manufactured. So this is a seismic, systemic failure of American infrastructure with regards to battling the pandemic. And of course it's going to have massive implications for countries overseas that have been waiting to get their hands on those J&J jabs, in addition to those countries that have already got some of them.
And of course, Simon, the US President is in Cornwall in England at the moment, attending that G7 summit, where we're expecting massive pledges of donated vaccines. Do you think this concern around the Johnson & Johnson vaccines and the AstraZeneca vaccines, all manufactured at this Baltimore plant, could impact those donation plans?
Yeah, well, it's going to impact the short term. There's no question about that. Joe Biden, as you know, has unveiled plans just within the last few hours to buy 500 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech jab and then immediately to donate them to countries around the world. But, you know, that's an 18-month process, at least a 12-month process. The first 200 million doses will go out before the end of this year, and then he says the next 300 million within the first 6 months of next year, as soon and as quickly as they roll off the manufacturing lines that Pfizer has set up here in the United States and elsewhere. But if you're going to throw away these 60 million doses of Johnson & Johnson jabs right now, that puts a big short-term spanner in the global supply works, because those millions of doses were being counted on, particularly by nations in Africa that want to get moving and want to start vaccinating people, and those vaccines just are now going to be poured away.